There's a lot to digest during the final hours of Resident Evil Village, a lot of which completely recontextualizes Resident Evil 7 and even the founding of Umbrella itself, making several connections across the entire franchise. So let's get into the nitty-gritty of all this and explain exactly what went down and the ripple effect it has on the rest of the series.
Cool.
And yes,
this is fantastic. This is exactly what I want. This is able to get us up to spec and we would know what happened, okay?
This is a spoiler-loaded video.
Yep.
So if you haven't finished Resident Evil Village yet, leave now, go finish it, and then come back. You've been warned.
I'm glad you didn't get spoiled.
Throughout the game, you'll see allusions to the Umbrella Corporation's logo. But what does the strange Eastern European village have to do with the evil company responsible for the creation of the T-Virus, the destruction of Raccoon City, and the years of monster-based bioterrorism that have gripped the Resident Evil world ever since?
What happened?
Thankfully, these questions are answered. Let's start with where Winters meets up with Chris Redfield again. After all, it's Chris that kicked off all these shenanigans.
Yeah, Chris.
Some context. Ethan and Chris have a history. It was Chris and a strike force from the Bioterrorism Security Assessment Alliance, or BSAA, that ultimately rescued Ethan and Mia from the Baker house at the end of Resident Evil 7.
Right.
In the 3 years between 7 and Village, Chris and the BSAA have put Ethan and Mia in hiding in Europe to avoid the crime syndicate that was behind the incident called the Connections. When you finally find Chris in Heisenberg's factory, you get the full scoop on what's been happening. First, Chris has been investigating the Connections all this time. The shadowy group originally used a strange mold called the mutamycete to create Evelyn, a young girl who was also a bioweapon. Evelyn was capable of creating the mold from RE7 that made people into super regenerative, near unkillable monsters, which allowed Evelyn to control their minds. Mia secretly worked with the Connections and was tasked with playing caretaker, bodyguard, and possibly executioner to Evelyn.
That was a DLC that I did not play, so that was something that I didn't.
When the Connections were moving Evelyn by tanker ship, she escaped and destroyed it, causing it to wash up in the bayou near the Bakers' house. When Jack Baker found the shipwreck and Evelyn inside, she infected them and the rest of his family. Jack also found Mia, the only other survivor, and she was infected too. So the Connections had been looking for Mia and Ethan, who were seemingly cured of their mutamycete infections in Resident Evil 7. And that's why Chris had them in hiding. But when Mia and Ethan had a baby, they drew the attention of Mother Miranda, the chief boss of Resident Evil Village. Miranda wanted the baby for her own ends. About 100 years before the events of the game, Miranda lost her daughter Ava to the Spanish flu, and, becoming despondent, wandered into a cave beneath the village to await death. There, she discovered the original source of the mutamycete mold, the megamycete. Miranda gained regenerative abilities that staved off aging and illness, and eventually cultivated the power to rearrange her own cells to become a shapeshifter. Miranda can make herself wings or any other number of gross limbs. She can also completely change her appearance to mimic any other person. Miranda spent years studying the megamycete to unlock its full potential. She became a full-on scientist, and when you find her secret lair, you find pictures to that end.
Right.
She even worked with other scientists and researchers and functioned as a teacher as a part of her legitimate non-monster life. Sometime around 1951, she worked with the then medical student Oswell Spencer to do research on using separate organisms to mutate humans, namely the megamycete mold. You might remember Spencer as one of the 3 founders of the Umbrella Corporation. Spencer, in fact, was Miranda's student and held her in high regard. Spencer was fascinated by Miranda's idea that the mold could be used to completely alter people, but the teacher and student had different goals. Miranda wanted to use her theories to resurrect her dead daughter. Spencer wanted to transform all of humanity and remake it in his own image in a much more eugenicist, kind of Nazi-like approach. He decided the mold wasn't contagious enough to do that, but thought a virus might be, so Spencer and Miranda parted ways. Spencer and his pals went on to discover the Stairway to the Sunflower in Africa, which is first seen in Resident Evil 5. And that's what he and his Umbrella co-founders would use to eventually create the undeathifying T-Virus from the original Resident Evil. But Spencer looked back fondly at his time with Miranda and even used the octagonal shape seen around the village as inspiration for the umbrella logo. So that's why the logo seems to appear all around the village. Miranda inspired Spencer to start the research that would lead to the T-virus, and he stole his company logo from local art. What a bastard. Okay, let's move on to Miranda's goals and what she's been
Sorry, I had something in my eye and I was trying to get it out.
trying to accomplish. Throughout her research, Miranda has been working to try to change people into something else because she specifically wants to bring her dead daughter back from the dead. Miranda thinks she can do that because of the nature of the megamycete, which apparently works like a giant hard drive. Yes, a giant hard drive. It breaks down and absorbs the consciousness of anyone who is infected with the mold. Their minds are basically stored within the megamycete colony. Miranda thinks she can use the mold to literally bring her daughter back to life because her daughter is a part of the mold and so still alive inside of it. After Umbrella's fall following Resident Evil 2, Miranda met and worked with the Connections. She gave them a part of the megamycete and Ava's DNA in hopes that the organization could help resurrect her daughter. Miranda worked with the research team and they eventually created Evelyn, but Evelyn was an Ava.
Okay, well, that doesn't help. The fucking subtitles are like behind my camera. What the hell?
Miranda deemed the whole thing a failure and failed on the Connections, returning to her work in the village. What Miranda decided she needs is a body for her daughter to inhabit. Over the years, Miranda has been experimenting on people of the village, mixing the mold with a strange fetus-like looking parasite called a Cadu to transform them. As we saw in Resident Evil 7, not everyone takes well to the mold. Some people are killed by it, others turn into mindless monsters.
Right.
When the Cadu affects you badly, you turn into a lichen. Because that makes any sense. The four lords you meet in Resident Evil Village are Cadu experiments that turned out better. Heisenberg was the best version and had the most power, followed by Lady Dimitrescu, who became a vampire because of a genetic disorder. She needs to constantly eat human flesh and blood to maintain her regenerative powers. Then Donna Beneviento, and finally Moru. Each of these people took to Cadu better than most, but none was quite perfect. And Miranda wants someone who's perfect because that person will be the vessel she uploads her daughter into. When Miranda learns about Rose, Ethan and Mia's daughter, she decides that this will be the perfect person to use as her daughter's vessel. So she captures Mia, then uses her shapeshifter powers to impersonate her at Ethan's house. That's why Ethan felt Mia was acting so weird at the beginning of Village. He was actually talking to Miranda, who didn't really know about the events with the Bakers and other things about Mia.
Right.
But Chris was on to Miranda somehow anyway. He and his BSAA Special Forces team, the Hound Wolf Squad, busted into Ethan's house and blasted Miranda Mia with bullets at the start of the game. Thinking they'd killed Miranda, who still looked like Mia but dead, they threw the body, Ethan, and Rose into a van to get them out of there. But Miranda was only playing dead. She revived the van, killed everyone, but the unconscious Ethan, and kidnapped Rose. While Ethan is wandering the village during the game, Chris and the Hound Wolf Squad are infiltrating it. They're searching for Rose, trying to uncover.
Right, so I remember as I was walking around the game, I would see like little laptops set up in like churches and buildings, and I'm like, what the hell? So I was like, okay, Chris is obviously here with me doing something, and he's scavenging. So that's what this is about, you know.
Cover Miranda's whole deal, and also looking for evidence about the Connections, which are still at large 3 years after the Baker incident. As we learned from Chris's files and computer though, they never do find anything about the crime syndicate. Those folks are long gone. But why does Miranda want Rose?
Right.
That's related to one other big twist of the game. Ethan is actually a mold monster, just like the Bakers. Surprise! He was killed and regenerated way back near the start of Resident Evil 7. When he was first captured by Jack Baker in Resident Evil 7, Ethan was forced to eat the gross meat the family had at their dinner. He wasn't the first. This rancid meat was the means by which the Bakers and Evelyn infected new members of their family with the mold. With Ethan, the mold took hold extremely well, just like the Bakers. That's why Ethan could withstand so much punishment in Resident Evil 7, including losing his hand and then just stapling it back on like nothing happened. He has mold-based regenerative powers. It's also why he's so damn hard to kill in Resident Evil Village. Ethan and Mia got cured of their mold infections to some degree after Evelyn was killed, but clearly it never really went away. Thus, Ethan has been some kind of mold-human hybrid ever since, and that means that Rose is also some kind of mold-human hybrid. When Heisenberg talks about wanting to use Rose's power, this is why. She's the successful version of what the Connections were trying to create with Evelyn. She's the ultimate weapon.
This just can't be!
Your daughter's essence is still intact. Her powers are truly unique.
This is also why Miranda is able to crystallize Rose, break her into pieces, and put her into those weird flasks. She's not a regular human being, and her mold properties mean she can survive the process.
Curious enough though, why did Miranda even put her into a crystal and then put her into 4 separate vials? Why didn't she just fucking keep her in the... do the process when I was passed out? I don't...
While Ethan is fighting to save Rose, we also find out from Heisenberg that Miranda is, essentially, auditioning him to be her right-hand man. She wants him to wipe out her other children to prove how strong he is, while also eliminating any threat from the weaker lords. Heisenberg is, after all, literally building an army for a rebellion. Of course, Ethan doesn't go for it, and defeats Miranda in the final battle, but at this point, it seems that Ethan has suffered too much to survive, even with mold powers. As we've seen with all the other mold people he's killed, the regenerative powers aren't infinite, so Ethan sacrifices himself to destroy the Megamycete once and for all.
What have you done?
He's gone! Here it is!
Except, of course, for one thing. So this last item is a bit more cryptic, but at the very end of Village we get one last scene. This one skips ahead in time a significant amount to find Rose as a teenager or young adult. She takes a bus to visit her father's secret grave before a Secret Service looking guy finds her, seemingly a member of the Hound Wolf Squad. We quickly get the impression that Rose is working with Chris Redfield and his special force pals to fight monsters. Rose mentions her tests, and immediately after that spots the wolfhound soldier muttering, "Speak of the devil." That suggests the tests aren't related to school, but some kind of BSAA-related training. From what we can tell, Rose is an ally of the Wolfhound Squad, but they're also clearly keeping an eye on her. When the trooper mockingly refers to Rose as Evelyn, you know, a living mold weapon in the form of a kid, Rosemary reacts in something of a threatening way at the insult.
You're needed, Evelyn.
Don't you ever call me that again.
Whoa, it's just a joke, Rose.
So we can assume that Rosemary has the mold powers Miranda and Heisenberg expected, but she's using them to work with Chris on his ongoing anti-bioterrorism mission. We then hear a quick bit of conversation over a guard's radio in which he tells a distant sniper not to take a shot at the kid. So Hound Wolf Squad is standing ready to take Rose down if she turns out to be an evil mold monster instead of a good mold monster person. Rose's comments about Evelyn and Ethan, two people she couldn't possibly have ever known, also seem to play into what Miranda said about the Megamycete. This might be a stretch since Rosemary's comments are a bit cryptic, but if the Megamycete acted as the hard drive-like storage for the personalities of all the people who are infected by it, then Rose may actually know them both. They, and everyone else, might actually be a literal part of her. That seemed to be what was going on in the scene in which Evelyn reveals to Ethan his true nature as a mold man. Through the Megamycete, Evelyn lives on, and thus was able to communicate with Ethan. A similar scene played out at the end of Resident Evil 7 when Jack Baker was able to communicate with Ethan despite being, dead.
Right!
And that would also explain Rose's intense reaction to being called Evelyn. She may feel the influence of both Evelyn and her father pulling her in different directions. In any event, Rosemary's status as a human bioweapon, working with and under the protection of pseudo-imprisonment of Hound Wolf Squad, looks to be the lead-in for the next Resident Evil. As Village tells us at the end credits, the father story is now done. But there's still many unanswered questions. this. First, there's the question of what else Miranda got up to during her 100 years of experimentation. The photos of her and Oswald Spencer suggest the two were working on some kind of cold weather excavation in the 1950s, before Spencer began his umbrella work. The photos aren't clear, but what they were looking for in that snowy locale could be mold related. If there's more mold out there, what was Miranda looking for and what did she and Spencer find? There's also the question of the BSAA intrusion that happens at the end of the game when Chris and Hound Wolf Squad go after Miranda themselves. The BSAA sent its own soldiers separate from Chris's team to the village to attack Miranda. The question is, why? And why wouldn't Chris and his pals know about it?
K9, I want to know what the hell BSAA is doing here. Find out what you can.
God damn
What's
it.
more, at the very end of the game, one
I just see fucking Javi's face now when he's talking, and I can't picture anybody else.
of Chris's team remarks that the BSAA soldiers aren't soldiers at all, they're bioweapons. With a mask off, the BSAA soldier's body they're investigating looks more like a zombie or Umbrella-era tyrant creature. That's altogether weird, since the BSAA is supposed to be fighting bioterrorism. But the BSAA has had strange ties to the evildoers before. In the canon CGI animated movie Resident Evil Degeneration, the pharmaceutical company funding the BSAA, Tricell, is actually doing its own Umbrella-like monster research before they're exposed and brought down. There's also Blue Umbrella, an organization created out of the remnants of Evil Umbrella, but with the aim of stopping bioweapon research and bioterrorism. Chris doesn't trust these folks either, but was cooperating with them during the ending of Resident Evil 7 when he saved Mia and Ethan.
Right.
So, what's their deal? Finally, the post-credits scene of Village ends on a strange image. The Hound Wolf car drives off from the cemetery, and in the distance, we see a lone figure walking down the dirt road toward it. Eventually, the figure and the car seem to meet, and the car seemingly stops as the figure approaches. But then the scene just ends.
Yeah.
Was the figure important? Why did the car stop? Is that a tease of something more, or just a weird red herring in the final seconds of Resident Evil Village?
See, Ethan.
Seems like we might be waiting a bit to find out those answers. Then again, Capcom added a lot of context to Resident Evil 7 through DLC, including Not a Hero, the episode that starred Chris Redfield and fleshed out the ending of that story. So maybe more context is on the way, and we won't have to wait 5 years for a new Resident Evil game to tie all the threads up. So just in case this franchise's lore wasn't complicated enough, then, well, now you have this. If you're interested in more convoluted...
Has it really been 5 years since 7 came out? Oh my god. It's hard to believe. I'm glad that I finished this game then too, though. DLC is already confirmed for Village, so I'll be playing that. My goodness.
Resident Evil backstory, then please be sure to check out our complete Resident Evil timeline explained. Link in the description below. Okay, hope this cleared something up for you. Thanks for watching. See you later.
Complete Resident Evil timeline. I just want to see how long the video is. Only 34 minutes? Oh shit, I'll watch this on my own. Interesting. Okay, cool. Yeah, so that kind of cleared some questions up for me. And I kind of knew that he was like special, or I guess it's interesting because when 7 was around, obviously some normal person can't staple their hand back on after being cut off by a literal chainsaw. So we all knew he was like special in some way, I guess, but it never was explained until now. So interesting. So it's confirmed now he was just like human hybrid mold monster, and that is exactly what Rose is. And Rose seems to be the perfected version of that, and she yeah, I don't know. I'm excited to learn more. I'm probably gonna watch a recap of Resident Evil 7 as well, just to get it more splashed in my brain. But I'm done with Resident Evil Village. It feels good to finally be able to just like focus on other games. So, story was really cool. I think it ended really good for Ethan's character. Truman said he disagreed, but I think it was, from a storytelling standpoint, the dad sacrifices himself. He didn't think he could make it. He's going to go in and take care of it himself and kill off the whatever, blah, blah, blah. That's a good ending for his arc, but logically, he could have just flown away with everybody else. So, yes, it was great from a storytelling aspect. From a logic standpoint, maybe some things could have been ironed out there, but that's just my little review thought there. Yeah, I thought it was great too. I've been live for 4 hours. This is the longest stream I've done in a while, and my voice, for some reason, is not dying on me. So, I'm looking in Discord and it says streaming the factory, and I'm like, what the hell did I do? Whoa, what's this? Oh, this is the intro. Oh, that's what we're gonna do to Brandon. We're gonna do that to Brandon, and if he doesn't give us his milk. But yeah, the graphics look really good too. But there's this big boy right here. He's the killer. He's ginormous. We played against him, so you kind of understand him already. But he's ginormous. My name covers his face. Pretty legit. This is one of the craziest perks. Hold on. Oh, not. Loadout here is Lethal Pursuer. So at the start of the match, everybody's revealed to him, so he knows exactly where everybody is right at the start, which is pretty crazy. I'm probably going to use that perk pretty frequently on when I play killer matches, but for survivors, I like Jill. I think she's a cutie, but I don't know who she is personally. I don't know. Yes, it's crazy. It's so we have to be aware of that if we ever play. Also, Daniel wants to play Wednesday, which is Wednesday today, or is that tomorrow? Daniel wanted to play some Dead by Daylight on Wednesday. I don't know what that day is, but let's go to the survivors. There's her, and then there's Leon, which I believe Timmy was playing as, and he was pretty cool. But then we go to the shop, we go to the store, and there's Chris's skin right there, dude. Oh, it looks so good. Tomorrow or today, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, today. So maybe we can play some later, but I'm probably gonna buy Chris's skin because Chris is pretty badass. Let me just go and buy that. So now we can go back to this loadout. Got you. Customize. There we go, baby. Yeah. I think it looks pretty legit. Cool. All right. Well, that's pretty much all I wanted to show you. Just the Chris skin and all that good stuff. So I'm taking off. I'll catch you in the Discord in a little bit, and we'll watch some The Walking Dead. Cool. All right. I will see you there. Thanks for watching Resident Evil 8, Resident Evil Village. I had a lot of fun. I know this is a completely different game now, but I switched to it for stream reasons. But thanks everyone for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.